We'll open up in prayer and we'll just go from there. Our Father, our King, we thank you for the blessings of this day. We thank you for this time together. And Father, let us receive your word as we bring forth another teaching about your tribes and Joseph, who you give him his name, and we just thank you. And let us study your word and be approved of it. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Okay, we're going to study Joseph, which I think is probably one of the most, if not the most powerful tribe out of all of them. And you don't think about that much because he was gone from the time he was really a teenager, on, and then you don't hear much out of him, but yet he saved Israel, and God allowed that. But anyway, let's talk about it. Let's get down and talk about it. He was born on the 1st of Tammuz, 2199, which would relate to us, again, as the 30th of June, 1562 BCE. Now, we already know that he's a brother of Benjamin, and that they joined into Judah. Everybody was joined into Judah as the tribes were dispersed and everything. And you can find the descendants of Joseph among Israel. Judah is what they call Israel today. His banner would be black. And of course, we already know he has a unicorn on it, as well as a bull, which stands for his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Also, the black represents his stone on the breastplate, and also the two stones that are on the shoulders of the high priest, which has all the tribes of Israel on them. So God's looking down on the children that he created and named. Okay? Now, Yarli David had, I want to read this to you. It says, Reuben, the 12 sons of Israel were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the sons of Israel received a blessing from their father. Everyone according to he blessed them. And it's in Genesis 49:28, of course. In addition to the individual blessings given to each one, there existed a natural right, leadership, and a birthright. The natural right leadership was involved with Judah, who provided the house of David and was to receive the task as lawgiver. The birthright, in effect, meant reception of those names, blessings given to all the tribes, and a greater quantity of the intensity. And that's where Judah is today. Judah is really has the right of leadership, Israel's leadership. And it says it is also indicated that a natural right to certain predominance in the twofold portion of the inheritance. Judah prevailed above all his brethren, and of him comes the chief ruler, but the birthright was Joseph's. And that's in 1 Chronicles 5:12. And Jacob blessed Joseph, and the blessing of thy father has prevailed above all the blessings unto the utmost and everlasting hills. It shall be on the head of Joseph and on the crown of him that was separated from his brethren. It's in Genesis 49:26. Of course, like you said, Rabbi, today Joseph stayed in Egypt, and but they dwelled together for, and everybody says, well, Joseph stayed in Egypt. Joseph stayed in Egypt, but they stayed in Goshen, which was right next to Egypt. He brought them there to dwell with him. And the only time that comes into play is the fact that when there come a Pharaoh who did not know of Joseph. There come a Pharaoh who did not know of Joseph. And that's when they enslaved the Egyptians and started using them as workers. So, there's a lot of things, but Joseph is a dynamic, he's intense, bides his times, and his qualities of Joseph are all those of Israel, especially from the 10 tribes. Joseph can encompass everyone and spread himself around, yet if necessary, he can play it alone. Joseph is a leader, and considers it both a right to lead, and sometimes he has to work for it. But he looks into the heart and is large in both meaning and understanding and generosity. Joseph can be sensuous, but is capable of great self-denial and of cleaving to the cause long after others have given up. Joseph is thorough. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Joseph. Now you're going to notice a couple things. Number one, I talked to a rabbi this week and showed him that there's a couple things up here that are only in the name of Joseph. Now remember, Joseph was a forerunner of Yeshua. Okay? And it says, number one, you come up and you have the yod, which is the right hand, the yod, which is the right hand of an arm and a hand. You have the vav, which is the 10 peg. Now, we'll go back to that. You have the summit, which is, this is a thorns, okay? And then you have the peg, which is the mouth. But this is an ending peg.
What? Oh, the final.
The end, the final.
The final thing.
Yeah. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is, number one, Joseph means to gather or to add on. And we look at the right, at the hand that is pointed to the right, and we always know in our teachings that we use the right hand as Yeshua. So to represent Yeshua. The 10 peg, we already know, is the anchor. And I teach this, and I told Rabbi about this. I said, you know, I says, the thing about this is the fact that that 10 peg held everything together. The tabernacle was held up by 10 pegs. So it was the smallest thing, one of the smallest things, held up the greatest of everything, of God's, temple. So we have to look at it. It was very, very important. The thorns, and the thorns, of course, we already know. He wore a crown of thorns on this earth. His earthly crown was a crown of thorns. But yet he went on to have a heavenly crown, which is going to be the high priest crown, which I think is in the Temple Institute. That's when everything made. He's already got that. So he received that the minute he left. And the ending peg is a mouth. So what you have is he will take everything that we need to God for us. Nobody talks to God but Yeshua. Yeshua takes everything that we have, our prayers, everything, to God. And our first one, of course, is our redemption, our receiving Yeshua as inside. So what you have is the right hand of God. The right hand, Yeshua, is an anchor. He wore an earthly crown of thorns, and he became our mouthpiece for us to God, because we wanted somebody here. People wanted an earthly Messiah, and God gave it to them. But the ones that received him, and they still have a hard time today, but they will. I believe a lot of them will. He became our mouthpiece. He answered. He takes our prayers straight to the throne room of God for us, because that's the only way that we can get there to God is through Him.
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing about this is also the fact that there's different meanings for these words, or these letters. And I come up with the right arm represents worship. Of course, the 10th peg is the anchor. The thorns protect, or for protection. And then the mouth, you could be scattered. It means scattered in their words. So it says, worship is the anchor of God's kingdom. Its thorns protect his people from being scattered.
People.
Yeah, just like the sheep, he protects them. And remember about this tent peg, it's so important that the woman, you remember? Charles told me this today when I was talking to him about it, because he wasn't going to be down here to go to a meeting. But she used a tent peg to kill the man and come into her tent, remember? Yeah.
Jail.
Yeah. So it was sharp, and it was an anchor.
And efficient.
Yeah, it was very efficient. And God used it mightily. So we get down to the breakdown of what is the number system. And it just kind of floored me when I started adding up this number system, because we already know the Yud is 10, the Vav is 6, the Samech is 60, and the Pei is 80. And then you look at the total, and it's 156. Now, the 1, of course, we already know, represents God. The 5 represents eternity as well as grace. Okay? And 6 represents flesh, or in some teachings, man. So you have God giving man eternity and grace. He gave it to flesh. Whether, I say flesh because to me it represents all that God's people flesh does. And to me sometimes it leaves women out. When we look down here, and it totals up to 12. And then you have the 12 tribes and the 12 disciples that God's chosen for himself, for his people. He chose these for his people for leadership. He chose these guys for leadership for his people as well. So this was a big deal. And if you add these two together, you can come down here, and you have 3, which is, of course, we know the triune nature of God, which represents all 3. No doubt, it's probably, it's, to me, once I've seen it, it's the most powerful, one of the most powerful names in all of them. Not the most powerful name. Represents a lot of people. It represents people all over the world, to me, because once you've accepted the Messiah, which is here, and Rabbi said today,
You're added on.
You're added
That's what
on.
his name
You're
is.
added on. And then, it's big because Yeshua was gathering his people in. Joseph gathered his people in to protect them in Egypt. Yeah. Through the family.
And we're in Andy.
And we're in Andy. Yes, we are in Andy. And we're still trying to gather. We're still trying to gather people. And we should be. And that's where I believe our brothers like Pastor Sam and Eric and Howard Boyd and those guys, they're bringing a lot of people into the fold, and then after they get here a while, they get kind of curious as to what was Yeshua's lifestyle, what was his, how did he act, where was his, he was already Hebrew, and that's part of walking. You can tell the difference when you go into Israel and when you go into Egypt, because you can see part of Egypt from Israel when you go over there, but it's just desert. A land that he took and made great. In my opinion, he was the man that saved Egypt as well. Yeah. He saved 2 nations. So if you have any questions, we'll go from there, because once I had this up there, I didn't have to write it, and it didn't take much time. Of course, we could talk. His 2 sons, Manasseh and Manasseh and Ephraim. their needs are just as